Are you considering an e-bike? Should you buy a Rad City 5 e-bike? Why would you buy a Rad City 5 e-bike? I will answer these questions for you and more in this video. Well, there are many reasons to consider an e-bike, and a lot of those reasons depend on who you are. And, I wanted an e-bike because I love riding, but as I got older and my knees got to the point where they didn't work as well as they used to, and I like the outdoors, I like to exercise, so I decided an e-bike was the way to go for me. But owning an e-bike is not without its challenges. I have a passion for riding rail trails, and there are hundreds of miles of rail trails here in Michigan. And I was missing out on those beautiful adventures on the rail trails. Now with an e-bike, I can get back on those rail trails and enjoy the outdoors and the beauty of the rail trail. Now, we also winter in Florida, and we winter at Nettles Island, and an e-bike really helps me get around our community. But unfortunately, Florida doesn't have all the beautiful rail trails that are available in Michigan. So I have a question for you. Where are you at in your consideration for an e-bike? Are you shopping for one? Do you already own one? Well, either way, please leave comments below and tell me where you're at in the process, and tell me about your experiences. I would love to hear about you and your experiences with your e-bikes. Now, if you leave a comment, other viewers can learn from what you say down below in the comment section. So please don't hold back and let us know what you think of your e-bikes, or what you think about when you're considering buying an e-bike. I think that's very important to the people who are watching this video, so I would appreciate your comments below. Now, I researched many e-bike options as I went along in this process. And before purchasing the Rad City 5, I watched many YouTube videos, I read articles and blog posts, and I checked out many product pages from manufacturers of e-bikes. And I decided on the Rad City 5 for many reasons. And some of those reasons are it's a large e-bike. I'm a large guy. I'm 6'4" tall. I weigh around 260 pounds. And the e-bike I purchased, it had to have a large frame and the proper distance between the seat and the handlebars. And that's necessary to make it comfortable. So the Rad City 5 fit all of those things. It fit my bill, basically. And in addition, I wanted an e-bike that had the most powerful motor that I could get on an e-bike. The Rad City 5 has a 750 watt motor, and that's the largest motor that you can get without having to get a license in your state. Now some states are different, but I think most states are probably around the 750 watt range. In Michigan, it limits you to 20 miles per hour maximum speed, and I think there's even a governor on the Rad City that doesn't let you go over 20 miles an hour on flat using the motor. But anyhow, the 750 watt motor is something that I believe that would be necessary for me at my size to get me above, or to get me through some of the terrain that I was going on and that I might encounter. Now, keep in mind, I'm not traveling over real hilly terrain. I'm on rail trails, which tend to be fairly flat, but it does pretty good on the hills. It struggles a bit, but it gets me by. And, that's one of the reasons I like the 750 watt motor. Now, I received the Rad City 5 late in January of 2022, and that was while we were in Florida for the winter. And I had a bike shop assemble the Rad City 5. I figured that was much easier for them to do, to assemble in the shop. Rad City shipped it directly to the bike shop assembled it, and I figured that was easier because, when we're in Florida, we're in a motorhome. I don't have a shop. I don't have really a place to do the assembly, so it just seemed to be a better idea to pay the extra money and have Rad assemble or not Rad, but the bike shop assemble the bike. Now, I rode my new bike around Nettles Island and around Hutchinson Island, and about at the point where I got 36 miles on the bike quit. It stopped. There was no power at all to the motor. I could twist the throttle. I could set the pedal assist, and nothing happened to the motor. Now, all the electronics worked fine, but nothing happened. It was basically at that point a pedal bike with no assist. So I contacted Rad, and Rad sent me instructions basically on how to troubleshoot the bike. And I went through those instructions, and one of the things that they required was that I produce videos of the troubleshooting that I went through and send those videos to them. Now that wasn't difficult for me to do. I do videos, and so I did all that. I sent the videos to Rad, and by the way, those videos I put into this channel, a YouTube video. So if you're interested in the troubleshooting techniques that Rad wants you to go through if you have trouble with your e-bike, those are in a previous video here on this channel. So take a look at those if you're interested. But anyhow, I went through the troubleshooting techniques, sent the videos to Rad, and they thought it was probably the wiring harness or the controller, and that's the electronic controller that controls the motor to the bike. It controls, how much pedal assist, and it controls your throttle. They figured it was that. So, first off, they sent me the wiring harness, and I didn't think I was going to get the controller right away, so I went ahead and put the wiring harness in, reassembled the bike after doing that, and that didn't work. It wasn't the wiring harness, so it had to be the controller. So it took a couple more weeks to get the controller, and I installed the controller, or at least I tried to install the controller. I got it to a certain point, and it was frustrating. It was difficult. I was working on my knees because I didn't have, the proper benches and whatever I needed to do the repairs. So I decided to wait until we got back to Michigan to finish up those repairs. But let me back up a little bit. You're probably asking, why didn't you send it back to the bike shop for those repairs? Well, by the time I got the controller, we were at a point where if I took it to the bike shop and there was any delays in getting those repairs made, then I may have to leave the bike at the bike shop for the summer. We were leaving Florida soon, coming back to Michigan, and I didn't want to have my bike stuck in the bike shop all summer waiting to get repaired. So I decided just to take it home, and I have a garage, and I have the ability to put some plywood down and a couple sawhorses and lift the bike up, get it up in the air where I can work on it. And I did that. And I finished up installing the controller. Now I had some problems with that, and there's some tricks and techniques that I discovered. It took me hours to discover these, and I have all this in a previous video on the installation of the controller. There's a couple videos there that you can go back on this channel and watch. But I successfully got that all done. I got the bike put back together. and I tested it out. And there's a video on my test drive after I've completed the repairs, and everything worked fine. So, from that point on, I had a good Rad power bike. Now, the problem was that it took me from basically the middle of February until about the middle of May until I had an e-bike that I could ride. Now, part of that's my fault because I waited, and I got it back to Michigan, and I waited for the weather to warm up a little bit, and then I finished the repairs. So part of that's my fault, nobody else's. But the thing is, it was repaired and it was going. So, and now I have an e-bike, and it's been 7 months. And what I want to do now is kind of give you the review of 7 months of riding it. Actually, not 7 months of riding it, but 7 months of having it. And I put several miles on the bike since I've gotten it repaired. And I just want to give you my impressions of what that bike is like and whether or not I would actually purchase another Rad City 5 e-bike. So I'll let you know that after I finish here. But the miles that I've put on that bike after I've made the repairs, it's been a real joy. I've really enjoyed riding the bike. Riding the Rad City 5 is comfortable, and the electronics on the bike, fortunately, have been working flawlessly, at least so far. Now, I did put a softer, more comfortable seat on the bike, and I installed a front basket. And the basket is something that I ordered from Rad and installed later on. Now, the bike has a fairly smooth ride. It has front shock absorbers on the front forks, which absorb some of the bumps. And it does feel pretty sturdy when I encounter those bumps. The bike is well made. It's heavy duty, something that I need being a big guy. Now, as I mentioned, the bike has a little trouble getting up small inclines, but on a larger incline, it does struggle a bit. But keep in mind, who's on the bike, and that's me, the big guy. And after some adjustments, I found, which were very easy, I got the gears to shift smoothly. Now the gears were a little bit out of alignment, and I watched some YouTube videos and I learned how to adjust those gears, and it just took a couple of small turns of a screwdriver and I got the gears to adjust properly. So that all worked fine. They shift smoothly. The gear shift levers on the front handlebars, they're easy to reach, and it's easy to determine what gear you're in. There's a little indicator on it that shows you what gear you're in, and all that is good. I like the way that works. I like the way it looks. And the bike also, over on the right, has the pedal assist indicator to show you what pedal assist level that you're in. Now, I usually ride in pedal assist level 2 or level 3. And you can go all the way up, I think it's to level 5, which basically not pedaling at all, but they're not using any muscle power to pedal at all. But one of my goals is to get some exercise while I ride the bike. And the beauty of an e-bike is that you can determine what level you're in and how much exercise you want to get on your bike ride. If you get a little worn out towards the end of the ride, you can bump up your pedal assist and the motor helps you out more. But I do like to ride about 2, which gives me some ability to get some exercise. Actually, it's really quite a bit of exercise. So, if you rode at level 0, it'd be like riding a normal bike, except normal bikes aren't quite as heavy as an e-bike. So it's a lot of exercise. Now, level 5, you're not doing any work at all, but there's also another way to not do any work at all, and that's with the throttle. And there's a twist throttle on the right handlebar that you twist, and it applies power to the motor. Now, I don't use that much. I might use it to go up a hill, a steep incline, and that'll help, give me a boost going up the hill, regardless of what pedal assist level I've got it set on. But the real neat thing about that is at an intersection. You're sitting at an intersection waiting for cars to go by, and you have to get across that intersection quickly. So the way to do that is to jump back up on the seat of the bike, twist that pedal, or twist that throttle level, and as you twist it, your bike just takes off and zooms right across the intersection. And that's really helpful, especially if you're in some traffic and there's a lot of cross traffic and you have to hurry up and get across. You can do that very quickly with that throttle. Now, another thing is, and another issue is that I've noticed when I'm riding the bike, it has an unusual squeaking noise when I'm riding. And the noise isn't there all the time, and it comes and goes. Now it's intermittent, so that kind of makes it hard to find. Now the noise sounds like a loud cricket chirping. Now initially I thought it was because the gears were out of adjustment. So, as I mentioned, I adjusted the gears, and that all worked fine. The gear shift fine, but the noise is still there. And I can't figure out what that noise is coming from. And it usually only happens when my weight is on the bike and when I'm riding the bike. Therefore, I can't really locate the noise by lifting the bike up and spinning the wheels to see, what's rubbing or where it's coming from. That just doesn't work. So I'm having a difficult time locating this cricket, this chirping noise in the bike. So if you have any suggestions, maybe you have an idea of where that noise might be coming from, leave me a comment below. I'd really appreciate that. I'd like to investigate this a little bit further, and your comments would really help me do that if you have some experience with those kind of noises on a bike. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an e-bike, I guess, but if you have an idea, I'd really love to have a comment there. Now, another issue for anyone that's considering an e-bike is the issue of transporting that e-bike. Now, if you have an e-bike, you're going to want to transport it somehow on the back of your car to get to a trail or to a location, maybe a city or suburb area that you want to ride around in. And you have to get it there. And that place might be 20, 30 miles away. And so it's not practical to ride your e-bike that far to get to where you want to ride your e-bike. That doesn't make sense. So you're going to have to transport it on your car. And the bikes are heavy. Now they weigh around 65 pounds, and that's the weight without the accessories. So mine's a little bit heavier with the front basket and all. And all that means is that your e-bike is going to require a special rack that goes on the back of the e-bike. And in addition to that special rack, you're going to need a Class 3 hitch on your vehicle or higher. It could be a Class 4, but it has to be a 2-inch receiver typically, Class 3 or higher. And this is the type of hitch that you put on your car that you would usually use to pull, like a travel trailer. So not only do you need the special bike rack, you need the hitch, and the bike racks are fairly expensive. The bike rack itself is around $600, and they can be more. You can probably find some for a little less. Some of the racks are out of stock, hard to get. So you might want to plan this a little bit ahead of time to get a bike rack. And considering all this, the weight of the bicycle, the e-bike, you're going to have to think about, how much can I lift? How much strength do I have that I can use to get that e-bike up on the bike rack? And then the bike rack itself is a fairly heavy item, so you have to lift that up and insert it into the hitch receiver and get that all hooked up. And that's not a small chore for someone that's a senior, like myself. Now, fortunately, I'm a little big guy, and I can kind of handle those things so far. As I get older, a little bit older, maybe I can't do that as well. But, those are things to consider when you're looking at an e-bike. Now, you might want to consider a bike rack that has a ramp. Now, there's some out there. I've seen a couple of those. I didn't get one of those, but they have a ramp that you can slide out and roll your e-bike up into the slots for the tires. And those would probably be very handy and maybe very worthwhile for you to look into. Okay, now, all in all, I guess the question is, would I buy another e-bike considering some of the challenges of an e-bike, like transporting the bike on your vehicle? Well, the answer is yes. And another question would be, would I buy another Rad City 5 e-bike? And that answer is, it depends. The main issue is whether Rad has fixed their controller issue. I don't know if maybe they've gotten a new supplier for the controller. Maybe they've forced a little bit more quality control on their current supplier. But the issue is the controller. Now, on my other channels, I know I've gotten a lot of comments comments from other people having issues with the controller. And so it doesn't seem to be an isolated case. There seems to be a fairly large issue with the controllers. If I've gotten 5 or 6 people on my channels having issues with the controllers, there's probably a lot more people out there that don't watch my videos, and there's probably people that watch my videos that don't comment that have had those issues with the controllers. So my suspicion is it's a fairly pervasive problem that Rad is having with those controllers. Now, maybe they've fixed it. I don't know. If you're considering a Rad City, and I suggest that you do, they're really a pretty good bike, but I would do some research to try and find out if they've fixed the controller problem. Now you can go to blog pages, you can look at YouTube videos. There's a Facebook group for Rad power bike owners. That's probably a good place to go look and ask questions. And you can join up on that Facebook group and post your questions there, something that I would highly recommend that you do. I'll have a link in the show notes here in the area down below the video for that Facebook group. So if you're interested in that, go down and check that link out and join up on that group and ask those questions before you actually go out and purchase a Rad City bike. But all the research that you can do is very helpful, very beneficial, and you should look at a lot of different manufacturers of e-bikes. Now, they all probably have some problems. It's an electronic device, it's a mechanical device. That's what an e-bike is. So make sure you do your research and find out, what's what. My suspicion is that one of the problems that they have with their controllers is the fact that it's located within the down tube on the bike. So that controller is surrounded by black metal. And in a hot climate like we have in Florida, hot climate and electronics, that does not mix well. Within that tube, it's even hotter, the black tube, so that degrades the electronic components, I'm sure. So if you're looking at an e-bike, you might want to consider looking at one that has the controller mounted on the outside of the down tube or somewhere outside where it can get a lot of ventilation. So that would be a suggestion. And I don't know if Rad's changed the location of their controllers or not, or provided more ventilation. Those are things you probably want to look at. So another issue related to the controllers is the supply chain issue. And it appears that Rad is experiencing the same problem many companies are experiencing with chips and electronic devices. They seem to be having a problem getting their controllers from their suppliers. And some of the comments that I've received on my videos indicate that people are waiting quite a while. If they have a controller problem, they are waiting quite a while to get those controllers. So it might be, if you have a controller problem, it might be several weeks before you get a controller, one to replace the bad one. So that's another issue. Supply chain problems might be clearing up. By the time you watch this video, maybe they've gotten worse, maybe they've gotten better. I don't know, but you want to check and see if those controllers are available. Do the research, check out the Facebook group, check out different areas to see if people are still having problems getting a hold of those controllers. Now, one person that commented on one of my previous videos said that they got their controller fairly quickly, but that hasn't been typical of the comments that I've received. So again, do your research. Now, another issue is whether Rad is keeping up with their customer service. The Rad power bikes are very popular, and Rad has expanded their production capacity quite a bit. I know they've gotten a lot of investment money, and they've built a new factory. My own personal experience and the experience of some of my viewers seem to indicate that Rad's customer service is not keeping pace with the popularity of their bikes. Now this issue is subject to change quickly, and hopefully Rad is beefing up their customer service department. Again, check back here for more news, or check the Rad Riders Facebook page to see how they're dealing or how they're doing with customer service, and that would be a good place to go. Question is, would I purchase another Rad City 5 again in the future? The answer is yes. Yes, if the controller issues are resolved, and if Rad can keep up with their customer service demands, I would purchase another Rad City 5. Comfortable bike, it's right size for me, it's a sturdy bike, and it's a joy to ride. Well, as we conclude here, I do want to say that it's an absolute honor to have you watch this video, and you can honor me by subscribing to this video, hitting the like button, and if you click on the bell icon, you will get notified of new videos that I produce as they come out. So, I appreciate you, and I want to thank you for being with me here on this video. I like having you ride along with me when I do my trail rides. That's a lot of fun. It gives me somebody to talk to when I'm on the trail rides. So, jump on board with me when I go out and do those rides, and I really thank you for that and appreciate it. So, I look forward to being with you in my next video. So until then, everybody take care, stay healthy, and safe rides, everybody. Bye-bye for now.